All right, so today we're going to use what we did in the previous lesson of setting up trig ratios to solve for a missing side. And you can see we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle here. So I'm just trying to prove that you can do it either way and it gets you the same result. I'm going to be using an app called Desmos today on my phone. You can also go to the website and do it on your Chromebook. This is what I recommend using when we do these problems. So bear with me. I'm not super familiar with it. Like you guys, I'm used to using this calculator here in class. So we'll figure it out together. Let's see. So we are going to still be finding sides of a right triangle, except we're going to use different pieces of information this time. Okay, we have these trig ratios. We have sine, cosine, and tangent, and I'm just going to bring back SOHCAHTOA. Remember, this is what we use to figure out what the ratios are. Sine is the ratio of the opposite side over the hypotenuse. Cosine is the ratio of the adjacent side to the angle over the hypotenuse. And TOA, tangent, is the ratio of the opposite of the angle over the adjacent. So we're going to find the value of y. So you're going to have this little formula. You're going to pick the trig ratio, okay? Either sine, cosine, or tangent. Inside our parentheses, we're going to have an angle. Now that's going to be equal to a number or a variable over a number. So it's going to look like this every time. So the first step, we have to figure out what the angle or what the trig ratio is. I'm trying to find y. Okay, I have this value 9. So we have a couple options here, but we're always going to pick one of the angles in the triangle, not the 90-degree angle. So I'm just going to work with this 30 here. If 30 is the angle I'm working with, I am trying to find y, which is the hypotenuse of the triangle. I am given the length of the adjacent side to that angle. So A and H, I look over here. A and H goes with what ratio? C, cosine. So I'm going to set it up. The trig ratio I'm going to use is cosine. Inside my parentheses, I'm going to put the angle measure that I use, which is 30, is equal to, now we're looking for the ratio. Since I use cosine, I need to have the adjacent over the hypotenuse. You won't write this, or you don't have to when you work with these. I'm just using it as reference. Adjacent to 30 is 9. Y is the hypotenuse. Okay? So now we're going to solve this like an equation. So first thing, cosine and 30 will not detach from each other. That is one thing. So if I'm trying to find y, I'm actually going to cross multiply here. So I'm going to move it over here. Cosine of 30 times y is equal to 9 multiplies by 1 is equal to 9. Now I want you to think about this. If I had a number attached to my y and I'm trying to get y alone, what would I do with that number? Well, we would divide. So we're going to divide this sign by the cosine of 30. By dividing by the cosine of 30, that goes away. But I have to divide this by the cosine of 30. So I'm left with y equals 9 divided by the cosine of 30 degrees. Now it just goes right into your calculator. So here's my Desmos app. Okay, if I'm working on it this way, I'm going to type it in just like I see it. 9 divided by, now I'm going to hit this functions button, FUNCS. Okay, and I want to click cosine, and you can see it already gives me the parentheses to put the angle that I'm working with in. Okay, now the way that I have it, I just got 9 divided by the cosine of 30 is equal to 58.3. So what I just realized is my calculator is in the wrong mode. Okay, and this is where I have to figure out. So you're going to hit, because 58.3 seems like an awfully long hypotenuse when we have a side length of 9 here. So you're going to hit this little, sorry, my screen is shattered, this little tool up at the top, you'll see that radians is highlighted. We want to click on degrees. All right, so you can see my answer just changed to 10.4. All right, so that was a really complex problem. So hang on, we're going to do several of these. So B, okay, now this is a 45, 45, 90. I am given the hypotenuse and they want me to find this Z. All right, so I'm going to work with this 45 degrees right here. There's my angle of perspective. I'm trying to find the side that is opposite that, so I'm going to label that with an O. I am given the hypotenuse, so I'm going to label that with an H. At the top, I'm going to write this reference device up here, SOHCAHTOA. Now, I need to figure out, am I using sine, cosine, or tangent? I am trying to find the opposite. I'm given the hypotenuse. OH goes with sine. So sine of, how many degrees do we have? We're working with 45 degrees, is equal to the opposite, which is Z, over the hypotenuse, which is 24. Now this is a much better setup. Okay, we're going to cross multiply again. Z is going to be left alone. Z is equal to 24 times the sine of 45. Z is equal to, so now I go back to my calculator. It's already set in the right mode, so I shouldn't have any issues. 24 function sine 45 degrees. That is equal to 16.97, so 17.0. And there's our final answer. All right. We're doing good, guys. So I can prove to you, so if I did this the other way, I get 24 over the square root of 2 is equal to Z over 1. When I cross multiply, this is just proving special right triangles work too. Cross multiplication, or think of it as 24 divided by square root 2. 16.97, it's the same thing. A lot of people find that these are easier than special right, so that's why I'm showing you a couple ways. So now we move on to here. Remember, use our SOHCAHTOA. You'll use it all the time. Write it at the top of every paper until you have it memorized. Circle our angle. We have 28 degrees we're working with. Identify what the side we're trying to find is. That is the opposite of that 28. And then identify the side that you're given. That is the hypotenuse. O and H is sine. So sine of how many degrees? 28 is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. X over 19. We cross multiply. X is equal to 19 times the sine of 28. Calculator, 19 function sine 28 degrees, 8.91. So X equals 8.9. All right, so now we're working over here. We circle the angle that we're working with. I am trying to find the side that is opposite that angle. I was given the side that is adjacent to that angle. O and A tells me to use tangent. Tangent of 41 degrees, we always put the angle attached to this ratio, equals the opposite X over the adjacent 32. Cross multiply, X equals 32 tangent 41. 32 function tangent 41 degrees, 27.8. Awesome, let's keep working. I'm circling my angle that I have. I'm going to label, I have this X and 26, the side I'm trying to find. All right, is that the adjacent or the hypotenuse? Or is it the opposite? It is the adjacent over here. The hypotenuse is the 26 because it's across from the 90. AH goes with cosine. Cosine of 21 degrees is equal to the adjacent x over the hypotenuse 26. I reach across, I multiply, x equals 26 cosine of 21. Now let's plug that in. 26 function cosine 21 24.27, so 24.3. All right, let's do a couple more and then that will be it for today. So I'm working with 45 degrees. X is opposite of that. 8 is adjacent to that. O and A is SOHCAHTOA. OA means tangent. Of the degree, 55 equals x over 8. I cross multiply, x equals 8 tangent 55. Let's plug it in. 8 function tangent 55 11.4. All right, I'm going to search on this paper to try and find one that is a little more difficult. Okay, perfect. The next one does it for us. We start here. We circle the angle that we're working with. Label what we have. I'm trying to find x. X is the hypotenuse. 15 is the opposite. That tells me sine of 33 equals. Now, why is this one harder? Well, we do our opposite, which is 15, over hypotenuse, which is x. It is always more difficult or more steps when you have an x on the bottom because I can't just cross multiply and make it go away. So x, when I cross multiply, I get sine of 33 times x equals 15. Now I'm going to divide by the sine of 33. X is equal to, okay, so now we plug it in. 15, oops, I typed in 16. 15 divided by sine of 33, function sine 33 equals 27.5. Now I'm going to give you a little hint. When x is on the bottom, all that's happening is these two are changing spots. All right, so let's try this one again with that. We have our 43 degrees. The side I'm trying to find is the hypotenuse. The side I'm given is the adjacent. So AH tells me cosine. Cosine of 43 equals, okay, the adjacent 36 over the hypotenuse, x. When x is on the bottom, these two guys change spots. Okay, so that brings an x out here. 36 stays where it's at, and the cosine drops below. Cosine of 43. 36 divided by function cosine 43 is 49.2. X equals 49.2. All right. So good job. This is what we're spending today on. There'll be a couple story problems, but I'm confident you can set it up. Tomorrow we'll work with solving for a missing angle.